welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat. This is a very special episode. As I have announced on our social media, this is Ref Week. We are interviewing some referees, and today we have Layne Rosario. She's been a friend of mine for quite a few years now. She is an amazing referee, an amazing person. This is going to be a great episode for you to watch, listen to, all the social media platforms. Layne, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you doing? And thank you for that amazing intro.
Listen, I mean, this is big. You're only our second interview ever. So, I mean, you're the first referee that we've ever interviewed.
And the
So this
first
is
female.
and the first female. This is we're hitting milestones today.
I'm
Every
about it.
time we do this, it's just more history. We're making history right now. So everyone who's
Love
not
it.
a part of this now, just know that it was big then.
Love it.
We're like the Beatles landing right now. All right, we're not like the Beatles, but still.
Close-ish. Close-ish.
Close-ish. So, Layne, you have been refereeing for probably about as long as I've known you. You've been a ref, but I believe you worked as a wrestler as well at one point, right?
Yeah, for about 10 years before I
Okay,
became a referee, because I consider really my wrestling career getting started like fully when I moved to Florida, and that was about 2010. So about referee for about almost 4 years. Yeah, so about 10 years.
okay, okay. Very cool, very cool. And where did you train for both? I always just wonder that with that stuff. Where did you train? Did you train differently for the refereeing, or did you just kind of transition from it?
I call myself a student of the game because I learned as I went with everything, whether it was wrestling, whether it was refereeing. I tell people first whenever they ask me, "Hey, advice." Train first because I didn't do it that way, and I had to learn as I went. Like I said, student of the game. I started my career in New Jersey for a company called, now they're called Ace Pro Wrestling. They were AWA at the time
Okay,
in Jersey City, New Jersey. That's where I started. But I trained at a few different schools. I trained there. I trained at the NYWC school in Deer Park, New York. So
okay.
I kind of bounced around and picked the brain of anybody that was around that I could learn from. So it was cool. I got to learn from people like Jay Lethal, so that was fun too.
I mean, Jay is kind of a wrestling genius. I've gotten to work with him. I've gotten to listen to him. He's produced a couple of really good wrestlers, and is always good to kind of pick his brain a bit on different ins and outs and the minor details a lot of times.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been a wrestler, you've been a ref. Do you find one more enjoyable, one more satisfying? Do you enjoy being in the fire? Do you enjoy controlling the fire? Like, because let's face it,
It,
you're being the third person in the ring. You're kind of the one directing the traffic a lot of times. So
I have absolutely fallen in love with being a referee. I feel like it's that moment where you go, aha, this is where I belong. This is where I belonged the whole time. So how that got started, to backtrack for a second, I actually had what started this was I got invited to an NXT tryout in 2019 at the end, December. And they were like, yeah, we want to bring you in for a ref. And I was just like, oh, like I had never refed before. I was very scared. I was like, this is great. Okay. We're just going to see how this goes. And then once I started doing it, I was just like, this is where I fit. This is where I love to do. I was never really truly 100% confident in being a wrestler, but being a ref now and where I'm at now with it, oh, I'm so happy that I chose this. I wouldn't have chosen anything else. If I had to go back in time, I probably would have did this from the beginning.
that's awesome. I mean, it's always cool to find your spot too. Like
Hmm.
to understand, like again, like you said, that comfort level, that hey, this is where I fit into the world. That's awesome to be able to find, because a lot of people don't find that. You know,
Mm-mm.
and even in our business, a lot. You can attest to this as much as anybody can. That a lot of times there are people in the business that kind of aren't in it for the right reasons. So there's those of us that love it, and there's those of us that are just there for it.
Yeah, and you have to have the love for it because when everything else fades around it. We don't do it for the money. We don't do it for any other reasons. I do this because I genuinely love wrestling and I genuinely love now being a referee. It's genuine love. The money is nice, don't get me wrong, but like it's for the love of it that I do it.
It's it's the biggest dysfunctional family on the planet. It really is. Like we
Mhm.
we we put the fun in dysfunctional. We sit there and like we bitch and complain and we're all jaded, and yet at the same time we can't ever leave. Like we all love it. That there's a reason I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I can't. I don't. I'm not able to wrestle anymore. So I get to talk to you guys all the time, and this is honestly, it's the same thing. I feel like I found my place doing this because I like to talk to you guys, and I still get to keep all my connections with these people that I
Mhm.
spent 2 decades with now. So I completely get where you're saying where you're coming from with this, And all right, let's see. What else do I have for you? Do you have any matches that you've ref that are your favorites? And do you have any stories behind why they're your favorites? Because I'd love the background on them.
There's a few, to be honest with you, at this point now where I'm like, this is my favorite match that I've done. Um, it was it was a no DQ match between Eddie Torres and Ariel Dominguez. I feel like that to me changed my career and my confidence level because I truly, in that match, had to be the third person in the ring, had to help direct the fire and keep it under control and things like that. So for me, because there was so much communication that went on within that match during when it was going on, I absolutely love it. For me, it was great. So that would be one. And then the other match I would say that really I look back on now and it's one of my favorites. And it was a TV match for the Knockouts Knockdown pay per view. I believe it was 2021, I venture to say, is when it came out. And it was Diana Perrazzo and Masha Slamovich.
Okay,
So that match to me, I loved. Loved that match 100%. And for me, it was one, I'm doing it for TNA, a company that I grew up loving. Two, two women that can really go. And then three, it was really, really cool that after the match was when Masha got offered her contract with TNA.
that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Those are cool matches. Are there any companies that you per I don't want to put anyone on blast. So, are there companies that you prefer working for? Are there companies that you are looking to try to get into? Are you? I mean, like you said, TNA's been around for a minute, and they seem to be kind of firing on all cylinders at this point. They're finally getting back to maybe where they were. Do you see yourself maybe hopefully getting to like TNA or AEW, or maybe getting one of those bigger referee contracts, or hopefully getting one of those bigger referee contracts?
I try to manifest that into existence on a daily basis because I have big goals when it comes to those things. And right now, I'm getting a lot of reps in and building my resume and my footage with my home promotion of CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling here in Florida. They run basically every weekend. So it's nice that I get to have that where I'm in different cities every weekend in Florida and doing what I love. But as far as the bigger companies, I'm leaving myself open to whatever opportunities do come my way and just staying ready, getting ready and staying ready because this way, when that opportunity knocks, I'm here for it. But yeah,
That's
open to any opportunity, whether that would be TNA, AEW, even NXT. I'm ready.
just because I know he listens. Tony Khan,
Hmm.
Layne Rosario is ready for a contract. We just always assume TK's listening to our show, so I just think he sits on the internet and listens to us because that's what happens. So I'm working on it. She's ready. I'll have her information in our description. You can contact her. Get this woman a contract because she deserves it. If nothing else, because I am friends with her, I know she's a beautiful human being. So I want to see all the good things that's why I'm so happy that you're on here. Like I said, me and you have been friends for a couple of years now, and
Hmm.
you know, we we know each other through wrestling, but we know each other even more because we worked shoot jobs together outside of wrestling now. So,
Oh, that place.
oh, that place. We could be saying that place, and it could mean wrestling, and it could mean a shoot
Yeah.
job at that point.
No, 100.
Oh
Uh,
man. Do you have any bigger events or anything that you have coming up that you really want to get out there in the world? Anything that you want to really promote?
um, yeah, honestly, just the weekly events with CCW. August 9th, we're in Kissimmee, Florida at Old Town in Sun on the Beach.
Okay.
The next day, we're at Magnanimous Brewing Company in Tampa, Florida. The August 17th, we're in Port St. Lucie. So we're like all over the place. And for me, I'm just so excited at the matches that I get to do and the people I get to be around. And the fact that I get to do it in my home state is fantastic. Just that's what I have coming up. It's just staying busy, honestly.
So our last interview, or the last interview I did, was with Kakoa, and
Love
he mentioned
him.
this. Yeah. I mean, how do you not? It's Kakoa. That's just
Hmm.
he's Ricky Steamboat's son, and that's just who he is in life. And
Love it.
but we he brought up a fact, and until he said it, I guess I noticed it, but I didn't notice it. Have you noticed that there's like a Florida crew as far as wrestlers go? Like the same, almost like the same group of wrestlers are headlining every show in Florida, no matter where it is. Like the
Hmm.
same people are working Tampa, the same people are working, and it's like it. And I say it like because I see your posters for CCW, and I see your posters um for the varying promotions that you work on, but I'll see the guys that are working like Mayhem on Mills, and then I'll see them working CCW, and then I'll see them working IWA or whichever one is. So it's weird that there's this little like Florida fraternity almost for wrestling that just kind of, it seems like they're going all up and down. And don't get me wrong, I don't know what's going on in Miami sometimes, but it seems like everywhere from like Cocoa Beach to basically Jacksonville, it's a lot of the same wrestlers just in rotation.
Yeah, and that's true. We all do kind of stick together here like that. But what I'm liking lately, especially with CCW, they're bringing in different talent to kind of vary it up with the CCW regulars. So you do have different talent that does come in and out. Um, like in Kissimmee, August 9th, they do have Camille coming in to work to wrestle Carolina Cruz. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we're varying it up. I like that we have this steady group of people with other people brought in so that it mixes it up.
Kind of like you get the comfortability of getting to know some of these workers, or not just you guys getting to know each other, but the fans being able to form the connection with them, but then also bringing
Hmm.
in, like you said, like the Camille's and stuff like that to kind of inject it with a little bit of new blood, and if nothing else, a little bit of star power, so that they can. That feels very territory system. I'm kind of an old school guy in that sense, where I still watch some of the territory stuff, and you always hear about how, okay, well, we needed to bring Andre in to just boost, so he would go over to Mid South for a month or something like that, and then like head back up north. So
I love
it's
that
out.
idea.
Yeah, it's such a great idea, and I feel like the way wrestling is in the world right now, it's becoming easier to do. We talk about it on the show a lot of times that this like the forbidden door doesn't exist anymore. The once WWE started lending out their talent, like the forbidden door got chopped down basically. Like there's
Oh, 100%.
it's it's just one of those things where I feel like, and my co-host, who unfortunately could not be here today, has said it, where the rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that's kind of where it is the bigger the business gets, the bigger WWE gets, the bigger WWE gets, the bigger the business gets. And it just, everything is, so long as everything is getting better, that means everything is getting better. And it gives, someone like you who's trying to work it, like you said, work as many reps as possible. It gives you so many more places to work now, because this show that's in Georgia all of a sudden might need a referee, and they have a bigger budget now than they used to, because everybody wants to watch wrestling. So I always think it's cool for you guys that you get that you're getting a lot more work. Um, has there been any talk about, well, any thought of trying to go outside the country at all, or
I would love to.
Mexico, Canada, even Puerto Rico? I know it's still technically America, but Japan even.
As a Latin American woman, I would love to work in Mexico, in Puerto Rico, especially for me being half Puerto Rican, I would love to do that, because to be essentially in the country that my mother was born in, that would be like epic for me. Especially, and also getting to put into practice the fact that I do speak Spanish fluently, and to be around more of that culture that I was raised in, it would be amazing. Japan,
That
100% as well. Like, there's, to me, every country where I can grow and learn and pick things up and learn how to be a ref in different styles, I'm about it. I'm a sponge. Teach me. We are.
See, and I feel like that's the best attitude to have too. Like you said, be a sponge. You say it yourself, you're a student of the game, and I love that about you. Like, that's always one of those things. And me and you have always had really good conversations just about
Hmm.
wrestling, about stuff about life, but about wrestling
Yes.
mainly, because at this point, wrestling is life, right? Like, that's what we do. You work together on a Monday night at the bar. All right, well, we're putting Raw on. Raw's going on, just so you know.
And then we would sit there for 10, 15 minutes just talking about it, while the patrons are like, what are you guys talking about? Look up.
Yeah, it's like, you guys are really dissecting this. It's like, yeah, yes, we are. Yes, we
Hmm.
are. You
Love
hear
it.
both of us scream at the same time. Oh my God! Don't do that. Be careful.
Oh, especially when Damian Priest was on the screen, us screaming, "Oh my God!"
What's up, buddy? I know him. Oh man! All right, so this is gonna be my hard hitting question for you. This is the
Okay.
one that I was saving a little bit so I could get some of the other easy ones out of the way. So clearly, you have a lot of personal relationships in the wrestling business. We have, me and you have known each other for years. I know you have very close relationships with other wrestlers, friendships, and all types of different relationships, brotherhoods, things like that.
Yeah.
Being a referee, and I'm not trying to pull back any type of curtain here, but being a referee, is there an issue keeping objectivity? It is a sports based platform. Are there times where, as a referee, you have someone who you really care about, and they're something happens, and it's a little harder for you, especially if you're the one reffing the match, to kind
Hmm.
of keep the professionalism, keep the objectivity going. Um, and again, I ask this because I know you. I know how caring you are about people in general, and how
Hmm.
big of a heart you have just in general. So I always wonder if it's one thing when you're in the fire, and I know it as a wrestler. It's hard enough when you get back in the locker room and you find out someone got hurt in a match, even if it's not your fault. But you are watching it, like, you are seeing it. So is it a little harder to keep your professionalism and your objectivity going during a match, when if for a fact someone lands wrong, or someone maybe got their bell rung a little bit?
I am, when it comes to being in the ring, I treat everybody the same. Everybody gets the same amount of care, concern. If anything, the personal relationships that I have, I'm even worse on the person when it comes to the rules. Let's just be very clear about that. But no,
count,
I'm
count goes
very.
a little faster.
Oh yeah, you need to earn that. I'm kidding, 100% joking. But I am, and this you can ask anybody. I'm very protective when I'm in the ring of the people that I'm in the ring with, no matter who it is. I always am like, are you sure you can continue? Not even in the wrestling standpoint, but like physically, are you okay? Like I'm very much so a mama bear that way. Let me know you're okay. If you're not okay, and we find out later that you're not, and you told me you were, we're gonna have an issue with that. One, two, I treat everybody the same. To be honest with you, I give everybody the same amount of care, concern. You break my rules, you're gonna hear about it. Like I officiate the same for every match that I do, no matter who's in there with me.
That's cool. That's the right answer. That's the answer I was expecting. I just, like I said, I was saving that one for a little bit further into the show, just so that I could hit it home a little bit with that one. Your current opinion on the overall state of wrestling, I guess. Like, it could be the state of refereeing, it could be the state of the business in general, whichever one you want to go with. But I, I, I get very it could be the jaded part of me, but there's a lot of times where I get a little screaming at the screen, like, why aren't you counting? Why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? You're killing me with this. And it could just be me being old school, in which case I've got some fans that have been telling me, I guess, that I am a little bit too old school in that, but I feel that we both, you agree with me on this one a little bit, but the overall product right now I feel is good, and I think that we're heading towards another one of those peak times in wrestling. What's your overall opinion of wrestling right now? Just like the state of the business, how you feel it affects you, things like that.
I'm sign with you. I feel like we're coming toward and in a very great time period for it because there are so many collabs, partnerships, whatever you call them, where we were talking about the forbidden door. It's a revolving door now. It's busted
Yeah,
wide open where anybody
yeah.
can
There's
go
no
through
door.
that revolving door.
It's just
There
it's
really
yeah.
isn't
We ripped it
anymore.
off the hinges. It's ripped off the
Yeah,
hinges. It doesn't
and
exist
I love
anymore.
to see it. I love to see the mixing and matching of different companies, different talent. It's a great boom time period for it, and that's what I love about it is that you could be watching like even what's going on with NXT now. You're watching it and you're watching TNA wrestlers. So for me, I when I watch wrestling now, I watch it with a very different eye. I watch it for enjoyment, yes, still, but I also do watch it to kind of study for other referees on AEW, on NXT, on the main roster of WWE, and all of the major companies. I use those as growing opportunities for myself, and also to see, and that's to see what worked and then what didn't work. So it's an objective eye to kind of learn from. So I'm so happy with what's going on in wrestling right now with all the different spices and flavors being added to each pot of soup, essentially.
Again, Kakao said the way Kakao said it when he was on here was different flavors of ice cream. Not everybody likes
Hmm.
vanilla. Not everybody likes chocolate. So you get, you get a little bit of here. I've called it a renaissance almost of wrestling. Like if you don't
Love that term.
like if you don't like WWE, and it's not even, hey, if you don't like Raw, you have SmackDown, and if you don't like SmackDown, you have NXT, and if you don't like any of those, you have AEW or TNA or Ring of Honor or New Japan, and it's cool in the. I always feel like it's cool that the world we live in now, it's as close as a click of the mouse to find this stuff.
Oh, yes. And then, like you said, or, quoting Cocoa, it is different ice cream flavors for each person. If you don't like dynamite, there's collision. So there's a lot to
Exactly.
see and
Like
do
yeah,
with that.
the major promotions have two or three different shows each, and each one and some of them have more than that. When I talk about doing this show, even I'm like, do you know how much wrestling I watch? Does everyone realize this? And someone goes, well, how much wrestling is there every week? And I go over just my listing if there's no pay-per-view. And they're like, and you watch all of it? I go, I watch all of it. All of it.
Even referring back to what we were talking about earlier, when we were at work together, every night we had a shift, the legit one of the TVs above the bar was wrestling of some sort.
It had to be wrestling of some sort. And I laugh because the same people in this world who kind of almost demean our business are the same ones who are glued to the TV when I put it on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh no, it's it's not real, it's fake. All right, man, go home and watch The Bachelor. Tell me that's real.
Yeah, all of these scripted reality shows. Tell me how that works.
Oh man, but
Love it.
I yeah, I like I said, it's funny because I always say that people that us, especially us in the business, we're jaded. We're like Star Wars fans. We love it, we hate it, we can't get out of it. We just keep going with it. Um so let's see, what else do I got for you right now?
I equate it to my love of caffeine. Should I be drinking as much caffeine as I do? Probably not. Am I going to give it up? Not a chance.
Probably not either.
No. You know what I mean? It's like being somebody who loves caffeine. It's the same difference.
Oh man. But again, Tony Khan, remember, Layne Rosario, she needs a contract. We need to get her that big contract. And then we can bring her back on the show after she gets the big contract so that we can promote this show even more. But also, TK, if you need writers, I'm still available. Bring me in. We
Love
know
this.
some people. Shameless self-promotion. I'm all about it.
Why not? I mean, to be honest with you, we can even discuss that. Social media is such a tool now that you can literally use it as your resume, calling card, whatever it's called in
That's
this generation. Like you can literally use that as a means to promote yourself.
most companies now, like especially any type of media company, but like a lot of companies now ask for your social media account
Mhm.
addresses and stuff like that to check up on, if nothing else, to make sure they're either clean or to see how entertaining you are if you're in that form of industry. But like it's I heard someone else talk about this on a different show where it used to be, all right, well, if you were on TV, you were a big deal. Like you were, if you worked on, I think he used Friends as the example.
Okay.
And the night before they aired like the first episode of Friends or something like that, they said, all right, everybody, they like wrapped up on the set or something. They said, okay, everybody go out, have a great time, because this is the last time you're ever going to be able to go out like you will tonight. And I mean, at the time, they're right. If you got on TV, like people just knew who you were. Now it's, people might not know who you are on TV, but if you have 3 million TikTok followers, people know who you are. Like you walk into a restaurant and someone will be like, "Oh, I follow her on TikTok," or "I follow him on TikTok." Like that's my wife does it. She's like, "Oh yeah, I know who that is. I follow that person." I'm like,
Hmm. Oh,
it's insane that this is where we've gotten to.
oh, 1000%. You could be social media, what I call social media famous, just by TikTok, just by Instagram, even Twitter for that matter. It's amazing how somebody could garner millions of fans from literally either a phone or a computer.
Exactly. Yeah. Just from this little thing that you have in your pocket. By the way, I appreciate that you still call it Twitter. If it's on Twitter.com, it's still Twitter.
Well, Twitter, X,
X.
whatever it's called.
So to go along with this, my sidebar is all of Layne's social media links will be included in our description below for this interview. Anyone, Legion of Lariat, follow Layne Rosario. If you're in the Florida area, or if you're in Central Florida especially, go watch her referee. Go watch CCW. Honestly, what they put on great shows. They do a lot of really cool stuff. They have a lot of talent that comes through. you get a lot of people that if if you like mainstream wrestling, go check out indie wrestling sometimes. It's a nice break. I equate it sometimes where you can kind of equate it a little bit like minor league baseball, where you don't have the as strong of an emotional attachment sometimes when you go in there, so you can just go in and have fun and heckle the wrestlers you want to heckle and cheer who you think should be cheering. And sometimes that's what you need to even figure out your own character as an indie wrestler. I know there were times where I was like, I wasn't sure if I was going to be a babyface, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be a heel until I walked to the ring, and then I realized, okay, it was time. Okay, these people don't like me. Let's make sure they keep not liking me.
And they'll let you know for sure what they like and they dislike. But
Oh,
it's very much so that way with the local, at least local independent wrestling or independent wrestling as a whole. They don't get as much of an emotional attachment, but they learn how to grow that. They learn to grow that personal attachment to the person by seeing them in person. So sometimes going in person to an independent wrestling show is better than sometimes watching TV, because you can actually, if they have merch, have a conversation with that person and grow that hatred if they're or the love of that person for what they do and how they are based on being there in person. Because I'm the same way with baseball. I love baseball in person, but to put it on a TV and watch it, probably not.
yeah.
So it could be that way for others, where they go to an independent wrestling show and they fall in love with it because it's in person and you get that energy and you get that feel and you get even that secondhand adrenaline rush more so than sitting at home watching it on TV.
So, is there any one person or one event or one match that really solidified you wanting to be in the business, just in general? Is there is there I know a lot of female wrestlers who kind of came up during a certain time period. They'll cite Lita, or they'll cite, someone along those lines, or there's a match that you watched, or like I say it all the time that I don't have a favorite match necessarily, because I have a ton of favorite matches, but I have a favorite event. And my favorite event ever is still SummerSlam 91. If I go back and I watch SummerSlam 91, up and down, the card is just, it has everything that I want out of it. And when the most boring match on the card is Greg the Hammer Valentine versus IRS, it's a really good show. So it's one of
Legitimately.
those things where it's one of those where I can pinpoint SummerSlam 1991, me being 9 years old, as knowing at 9 that I wanted to do this. I just didn't know if I was going to be able to. So, like, do you have that? Do you have that moment or that show or anything like that where you think that there's something that you could, like, it cemented, like, I need to go do this?
For me, when watching it as a kid, it was two women. So it wasn't necessarily an event. It was two women that, with these big personalities that I had never seen before, because we were used to the Miss Elizabeth, the very demure, very polished woman. And I saw Sherry Martel and
Nice.
Luna Vachon. And when I saw those two women, it was a game changer for me. Wait, we can be different. We can be alternative. We can be loud. We can be just as tough as the men are. That's a thing. So for those two women were what did it for me. I was like, I want to be like them. I want to do this. I want to wrestle. I want to be like them and beat up some dudes. Cool.
And knowing you, I feel like there's some dudes I could see you beating up.
Right?
I'm that doesn't surprise me. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if you were in there referencing two dudes and one of them pushed you and you pushed them back and stood your
Oh, it's
ground. That
happened. It's
Yeah,
happened.
none of that, none, and it doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Just because I haven't seen it, that's why I said I could see it happening, because it probably had at this point.
Do you want the story? I can give you that one. It was
I
so
always
funny.
want stories. I love stories.
So it
We
was at
love stories
Kissimmee.
on this show.
So it was at Kissimmee, I do believe Kissimmee, January 2023. I refereed Gangrel versus Super Crazy.
Oh,
So I had super crazy, got into it with me about a call I made, pushed me, and I pushed him back. So that was one of the like coolest moments for me when it comes to a story like that of if someone, a guy getting aggressive and me being like, "Nah," you know. So
That's
that was
awesome.
one of the highlights.
That is awesome. So I'm gonna ask your opinion on a theory that I have, and I because and I'm asking you because you are a female and you are a female in this business.
Okay.
We often see the I heard this the other day, and like I'm kind of adopting this now. We see a lot of times with wrestlers with pull aparts and things like that where they bring, especially in mainstream, you get the big indie wrestlers that are working as extras as the security guards. Do you think maybe, especially because you can't see, I have to word this the right way. So the if you have a 280-pound security guard that's 6'6" or whatever, truthfully, a female wrestler the likes of, let's say, a Liv Morgan, a smaller girl, if this was a real bar or a real security situation, they hold her like a purse and carry her out. Now then, a lot of times instead of just standing there, if they where it's a situation where the wrestlers get involved with the security guards. And I'm saying this also because I think you would get more work for some of the female wrestlers as extras if we started incorporating some female security guards into the situation for the female uh segments, just because if you go to a sporting event and they have to pat somebody down, like I feel like that's realism even, because if you were to go to if there's a situation where you went to a sporting event and they had to pat you down for some reason, the man can't do it. They have to bring in like a female officer or a female security guard. So I feel like it's almost life imitating art at that point, is if you were to bring in female security guards, and if nothing else, it gets more workers, more paydays. So I was
Oh,
just wondering what
100%.
I was just wondering what you thought of it, or if you think that if it would be leaning more towards almost like a sexist angle where, well, we have to have female security guards to deal with the female wrestlers. But I'm not seeing it like that. I'm seeing it more like, okay, the the female wrestlers can get more physical with the female security guards than if it was male security guards, because at least the female security guards can really hold them back or something if they need to. They can get a real pull apart going and things like that, and it's not it's just, it was just something that's been bouncing around in my head a little bit, and I just want to see where I'm sitting in the world of sexism at that point realistically.
I like where you were going with that because yes, it does give more opportunities for women, especially when you do extra work and they do have you be security or things like that, because I've personally done it. So I speak from experience. I did extra work at the Amway Center and I had to be involved in a female based pull
Yeah.
apart between then Sasha Banks and Bailey. So I get that. It does give females more of a chance to have that TV time, for lack of a better word, or be interactive more with the talent rather than it just being males. I don't look at that as a sexist thing. I think of that as an equal opportunity thing to give more chances to not just the men to play those roles, but women as well, if done correctly, of course.
I think if it's done correctly, and especially if you are bringing it in again, as I said, in a more realistic tone, if you are, everything's kind of getting a little bit more with that realism, and people are being treated like adults, is what I'm saying. Is
Hmm.
the WWE specifically is not trying to insult people's intelligence, and if you're doing it the right way, and you're saying, well, we had to bring in this many female security guards because of this situation, like say it's the law, say the same thing like they did with Jacob Fatu in Canada, like, hey, like, because of laws, like, we had to make sure that this is what the deal is with this. And I mean, realistically, I don't even think you need to explain it too often. It's just a matter of like I said, I think it offers more opportunities again for women like yourself, for
Hmm.
a ton of other female workers, and especially as big as the women's divisions are getting now. Like it gives them a lot of work as something more than just a squash match or a valet, or back in the day one of the Godfather's hose. Like that was just, or I know we talked about Damian Priest, but he, when he was still in NXT and he was the partier Damian Priest, he's sitting in a hot tub with 6 women and they're all just other women wrestlers that aren't signed, and it's like, okay, well, these are parts that they could have gone to if they had female security guards, and they would have gotten probably the same pay rate and not had to be scantily clad necessarily.
No, but like you said, it would give more opportunities for people to be seen,
That's what
and
I'm saying.
there are
Yeah,
opportunities for TV and just open up opportunities where there hasn't been or should be.
and it's something I've never seen. So I'm big on, if you're trying something new and different, I give you a little bit of leeway on things a lot of times.
Hmm.
And uh so I'll even if I don't necessarily like it, I'm like, well, at least they were trying something. Like it didn't work, but you tried it at least. And so I just always like seeing
Agree.
something new out there. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we might not have seen a female referee anything other than a women's match. And it,
Yeah, and now look at the opportunities.
and I mean, realistically, where it's 2024, how many female referees were there in 2005? That's not that long ago. 20 years ago is a
No,
very recent memory.
it's it's
As
it's
far as,
amazing to see where we've come with that. Amazing.
I mean, there's as many female referees on the main rosters as there are male referees now. The women's division is just over and over and over. It's to the point now where, honestly, I've said it for the last couple AEW shows. The women's matches have been my favorite matches on them, or the last couple of pay-per-views at least have been my favorite wrestling matches out of everything that they've done. And then it's amazing that where it's a great time to be alive. Basically, again,
Agreed.
it goes back to the renaissance of wrestling.
And I love that term, the renaissance of wrestling. That's awesome. That's an amazing way to put that. Because essentially, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. We get so much cool stuff. All right, so I'm going to give you a few minutes, promote whatever you want, whoever you want, talk about anybody you want, anything you want. I'm going to try to keep it positive for you, though. I want, if you want to just self promote yourself for the next couple
Oh
minutes
yeah.
before we close everything out, talk about the shows that you got coming up, all that stuff. The
Well
floor is
again,
yours.
well again, I do have a pretty full month in August with my home promotion against CCW Coastal Championship Wrestling. August 9th and 10th, we're in Kissimmee and Tampa. The 17th, we're in Port St. Lucie. The weekend after that, I do believe we're in another city. I will post these all on my social media, which is all under Latina Ref Layne, whether it's IG, X, or Twitter, whatever that is. Those are the main two that I use. So yeah, just keeping busy. I love this.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Again, I know with your busy schedule, I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time for me. And outside of this, at some point, I promise we will get together and actually hang out and maybe have a beverage of an adult nature.
Yes, please. Soon.
Yes, we will make this, but this has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you coming on. Legion,
Same.
as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're not following Layne, start following her. You should. As I put on my TikTok, she's a good friend of mine. She's a friend of the shows. And if you listen to this, I'm pretty sure she'll become a friend of yours as well. I think she's up and coming. I think she's getting a lot of traction going, and as always, if you like what you're hearing, follow us, like us, subscribe, all those things, whatever the terms are with whichever social media you are using with us. Also, all of our social media will be in the description below. Outside of that, Layne, thank you for coming on the show. Can't wait to have you back
Thanks for
on again
having
soon.
me.
And Legion, have a good one.